Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just got home from work here a little bit ago, and I was looking through. Now, of course, I was doing this few days ago, but I was looking through some of my older jerseys, and I noticed that there were some differences between them as they kind of went through the years. And I thought I would kind of go through some of them and show exactly what some of the differences are. But before I get into that, of course, again, welcome to the channel. If you're new, hopefully you'll enjoy the content. If you do, hit that like button. If you really do, hit that subscribe button. That'd be fantastic. I would greatly appreciate it. And if you're looking for any kind of hockey topic, I love talking about it. I love talking about jerseys, hats, any kind of like jersey news. Just really any kind of news in general. Which there is kind of a story that I'm kind of doing a little research on right now. That could be interesting. Definitely could lead somewhere. But hopefully that'll be a video here that I hopefully will be doing soon. Once I get done researching that. But yeah. So if you like hockey content, any kind of hockey content, here I am. Hit that like and subscribe button. That'd be awesome. So let's get into this. So I was looking through a lot of my older CCM jerseys, because it's entirely possible CCM might be able to get the contract back to do the hockey jerseys. Well, I was looking through some that I've had data. We're talking the span of, jerseys from 30 years ago that I had up until 2006 when they were taken over by Reebok, and I thought I would just show a few. Now they've had this, not this one, but I'll set this one over here real quick. But I showed these off. This was the first ever jersey that I ever had, and this was the second one that I ever had. These two, they were the expansion teams at the time. Now, they did CCMs a lot different. These were from 1992. So you're 30 years ago. They didn't put the CCM tags up in the neckline. They had those old school necklines, but that's kind of how that was back then. They didn't put the big CCM tag up top there. They just had those. But what they also did was down here. All they would do is they would basically screen print the logo, the CCM logo, onto the jerseys. So as you can see, it's all, it's a lot of it's washed off, faded, and all that. But that's kind of how they did it in the early 90s. And of course, 1990, and this one I had. This was mid 90s. I had this one. Of course, I wore this one for one of my high school senior class pictures, and they were still doing them. They were still doing the CCM logos like that, where they were just printed on. But as it got into the later 90s, they started doing something like this. Hang on. Let me gotta put these. Let me just stick these over here for right now. Stay. Don't want them to fall down. Well, they started doing something in the mid to late 90s, like 96, 97, 98 era when I was in college. They started going, they thought, well, we'll give something a try. We'll see how this sublimation stuff works. And they came up with something like this, where this is all one piece. It's all, as you can see, it's all one piece. And it's all a sublimation here. It's all sublimated. And they started putting the CCM tags on the sleeves. That's where these started making an appearance. But also, they were changing up the CCM tags a little bit on the bottom. And there, you can see, and this is all, that's just a sewn on piece of fabric there. But that's kind of how they were doing the CCM jerseys in the late 90s. And they were doing the same here because that was Calgary. Here's one of my San Jose ones. And they were doing, of course, here's the CCM tag. They started putting that. That was a regular thing that was starting to become a thing. And again, I've got a few CCM jerseys with this on it. Now, we all loved how the Nashville Predators reverse retro, used that really nice silky material, which, that nice silky stretchy material, which is fantastic. Yeah, CCM was doing this in the late 90s. They already had a thing on this back in the late 90s. And I have another Sharks jersey just like this, and it's not the silky material. It's just the normal airnet polyester in gray. It's not the stretchy silky material like. So because Adidas had never really done that before Nashville did, or before the reverse retro came out. They didn't do the smooth silky material. Yeah, CCM did in the 90s, the late 90s. And and also when they started doing that, that's when they started putting, you had obviously you've got the size tag here, but that's also when they started putting the bigger tag in the neckline. So, and that's when you started seeing that was right there in the early or mid to late 90s. So they weren't putting them in there up until probably about 97. I'd say about 97, 98, somewhere when I was in college. It's when they started putting the tags up here. So that was kind of a cool thing they started doing. Now, what they also started doing too is, now here, they put a little different tag, a little different looking tag in the neckline here, made it literally look like a hockey rink. And of course there you got the size. And CCM though, they started changing up the tags on the bottom. So there, you've got the CCM tag there, and the other cool thing that they started doing, this was late 90s, early 2000s. They started doing, they put the CCM tag there, and then they'd put the team logo next to them. I always thought that was a cool little touch. That was a very, very nice touch. I always thought that was kind of cool. And, the the big CCM tag there, the logo, just to let you know what the team is, I always thought that was a cool little touch. Well, then they started going a little different again. Of course, this one's my Ottawa Senators alternate jersey, which I gotta say, I love the design down here. That's awesome. But they started doing a little something different. Obviously, they still had the CCM tag here. Now they did it a little differently here. This is probably, when did Ottawa have this? Early 2000s? 03, 04, somewhere in there maybe. But that's when they started doing the CCM tag a little differently there. But this is when they decided they were going to move the CCM tag up to the neck. This is when they started coming in and they kind of did the little brand split with Koho. So there you've got the CCM tag right there. And on the bottom, you didn't have anything on the bottom except the little NHL logo puck. So that's what you had there. And of course, the CCM tag, again, a little bit different. So, I mean, as they went through the years, they changed a lot of stuff up. Now, mind you, this is during the time they went with they were all the same company, but they decided we're gonna throw our Koho brand on here. So there was a period of time that the NHL or CCM decided, okay, we're gonna put the CCM brand on the white jerseys, and the dark and the alternate jerseys we're gonna put Koho. So that's where Koho comes in. And of course, it's just, same as CCM. You get the Koho there. Now here, you've got the Koho brand, which again, they were owned by CCM at the time. So, I mean, it's just a pure branding thing there to put Koho there. And again, they have the NHL puck down there. And instead of the CCM tag, you got the Koho tag. So I mean, that's all they really did as a difference there. I mean, you look at the two of them. I mean, they're literally they're the same company, only CCM, Koho. Same exact brand. But just a little, it's a total naming rights type of thing. Now, what they did here, go and snag this one here. Well, then they started doing the vintage line. They started doing the vintage hockey jerseys, and we'll show this one. My Hartford Whalers one with Pucky on the shoulder, and of course here's the CCM. Here's the CCM tag here again. It's CCM with the vintage hockey, and the little tag there, and that's when they also started putting the CCM logo on the tag too. Don't know necessarily why they started doing that, but they eventually kind of went away with doing that. But, the vintage ones, they put the CCM back down on the bottom of the jersey. So instead of being up here like they were on the regular CCM and Kohos, on the vintage ones, they put them back on the bottom. And it's interesting, I mean, if you take a look, the CCM, it always seems a little bit different. Some of them are, this one you've got the two white squares with the and then the green lettering there, and then the green square with the white. It was always kind of interesting how they did that. especially in comparison to, like to this one. You've got the CCM down there, and then in comparison to down there. So it's interesting how it kind of evolved over the span of 20 years, and of course incorporating Koho in was kind of an interesting. It was an interesting way to do it. It really was kind of a neat thing, and I remember too when they started doing the Koho thing. I'm like, well, wait a minute, why are they doing that? And then the first time I saw them, I'm like, well, there's nothing really different. The material and everything is still the same. That's when I found out, oh, Koho is just another brand under the CCM umbrella. Kind of like how Reebok is a brand under the Adidas umbrella. So that's just kind of how that happened to work out. Now, granted, the Reebok jerseys and the Adidas jerseys are two completely different, looks. I mean, the Reebok Premier and the Adidas Adizero ones, the material is different. It's a way different way that they do it. This in comparison to the Reebok ones that just snagged horribly, and it just and these ones don't really snag, and these ones are really nice. But they're owned by this. They're one and the same company. I mean, it's all under the Adidas flag, just like Koho was under the CCM flag. Reebok is under the Adidas flag. And again, with Adidas getting out of the jersey making game, I mean, again, and most everybody knows pretty much how I feel. How I would love to have CCM come back and do the jerseys, because I mean that's basically a good 20 years of my collecting. Probably over 20 years, if you think about it. 92, 02, 2012. I mean, because I was getting CCM stuff, vintage stuff, up in even after Reebok took over. That's when the CCM stuff was getting harder and harder to find. And so I mean, a good majority of my collecting time has been CCM. So yeah, I would love to have CCM take back over again, because I just think their jerseys are just the best. They were the better quality. And not a knock on Adidas at all, because I think I like these jerseys. These are nice. The material is nice. Everything's everything about this is a nice thing. Even the fit's pretty nice for a size 60. But so that's kind of why I'd like to see CCM come back. Now, I don't know if CCM comes back, if they would be able to make even be able to make the vintage jerseys again, but to be able to make them like this, this is what they would call the CCM 550 replica. So I don't know if CCM would be able to do this again, because Fanatics makes a lot of the other like shirts and hats and all that stuff. So I don't know if CCM would be able to make the vintage line again, or be able to make it like this in the 550 series. But I think it would be cool if they could. So, and if CCM's able to do that, killer. Especially the vintage line, because you can't go wrong with the vintage jerseys. They're just fantastic. So that's kind of my thought there. I just thought I would show a little bit of evolution of the CCM jerseys through the years, and And yeah, so what do you guys think? Do you guys like, do you kind of like the way the CCM jerseys went from the late 90s all the way up to into the late 2000s? You know, do you guys like the way it looked? I mean, they basically were doing the jerseys for 20 years. So, you know, do you guys like the way way they made them in the older time, or did you like the way they were made up in the late 90s into the 2000s? I'd love to know your guys' thoughts on that. And again, you know, if you were new to the channel, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't be afraid to check out some of the other videos on the channel. And if you like the content, hit that like button. That really helps get the channel out into the ether more, so more eyes can get on it. If you really like the content, would love it if you hit that subscribe button. That would be absolutely fantastic. But again, let me know your guys' thoughts. Which CCMs did you like? Did you like the older ones from the early 90s, or did you like the ones all the way up into the late 2000s, or did you like them all the way through? Let me know your guys' thoughts on that. Again, hit like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and I'll see you guys again later.